How many of these 27 field-tested tricks are you already using to pull bucks inside shooting range every single sit? I ran cameras on 5 properties across 3 states last season and tracked every technique that produced a measurable increase in deer visits within 30 yards of my stand. Not theories, not forum arguments, camera data. Some of these tricks cost nothing. Some cost a few dollars. All of them increased close-range deer encounters when I tested them against my own baseline data from the previous 2 seasons. A hunting buddy who guides whitetail in Buffalo County, Wisconsin, told me last November that the difference between his most successful clients and the ones who go home empty is not skill or patience. It is preparation. The guys who tag out consistently are running 8 to 10 of these techniques simultaneously. The guys who struggle are running 2 or 3 and wondering why the deer stay at 60 yards. I will go through all 27. Some are scent strategies, some are mineral techniques. Some are stand placement rules that most hunters get backwards. Some are timing tricks that cost $0 and produce the biggest results on the list. Stay until the end, because number 27 is the one trick that a retired wildlife biologist in Western NC told me produces more mature buck encounters per sit than any other single variable he has ever measured in 30 years of field research. Number 1. Hang your stand with the wind blowing from your entry route toward the direction you do not expect deer. Most hunters set up with the wind blowing from the deer to them so they can smell the deer. Flip it. You want the wind carrying your scent away from where the deer travel. You are not trying to smell them. You are trying to stay invisible. A Reconyx Hyperfire trail camera I placed on my entry trail showed 0 deer alert responses when I entered from downwind on 11 of 13 sits. Same trail, upwind entry, the camera showed 4 alert responses in 6 sits. Number 2. Stop checking your trail cameras every week. Every visit deposits roughly 1/200 scent molecules per footstep across an area the size of a dinner plate, according to research from the University of Georgia's Deer Lab. Walk to your camera 4 times a month and you have laid 4 separate scent trails radiating from the exact point you are trying to attract deer to. Switch to cellular cameras and check them from your phone. The Reconyx runs about $350. The Cutaback Cutalink runs about $130 per unit. The gas muzzy you save from not driving to check cameras pays for the cellular plan within 2 months. Number 3. The Borax Foliar Spray from the Weeds video on this channel. 1 tablespoon of 20 Mule Team Borax in a gallon of water sprayed on broadleaf browse within 20 yards of your stand, roughly the distance from the pitcher's mound to home plate. Increases leaf sugar by 2 to 4 Brix points in 10 to 14 days. The deer taste the difference and feed closer to your stand on treated plants. Cost is 15 cents. Number 4. Hang a used cotton t-shirt you have worn for 2 days at the farthest point from your stand on the property, 200 to 300 yards away. The human scent on the shirt pushes deer movement away from that point and toward the areas where you have no scent presence, which should be the area around your stand. You are using your own scent as a directional tool instead of trying to eliminate it everywhere, which is impossible. Number 5. The 2-penny galvanic mineral cell from the copper videos on this channel. 2 pennies, 1 pre-99A2 copper and 1 post-99A2 with the zinc face sanded, pushed into damp soil at the base of a stump near your stand. Full face contact produces roughly 10 times the ion concentration of the wire wrap method. Cost is 2 cents. Number 6. Hunt the second tree. Deer that have been pressured learn to check the most obvious stand tree at the edge of the food plot or the trail intersection. Set up 30 to 40 yards back from the obvious spot, about the distance across a bowling lane, in a tree with less visibility but more concealment. The deer that check the obvious tree walk past you at 25 yards without looking up. A guide in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia told me he moved every client stand 30 yards deeper into the timber 4 years ago, and his shot opportunities on mature bucks increased by roughly 40% in the first season. The deer were walking past the old trees every day. They just were not stopping because they had learned that those trees held hunters. He showed me 3 years of camera data on a shared drive and the pattern was obvious. The obvious stand trees had plenty of doe traffic, 0 mature buck sightings after October 15th. The second trees, 30 yards back, had mature buck movement straight through November. The mature bucks had not left the area. They had just learned where the stands were and walked around them. The 30-yard adjustment put the hunter back inside the pattern the deer were already running. Number 7. Spray your stand and climbing sticks with scent-free spray the evening before your hunt. not the morning of. The spray needs 8 to 12 hours to fully neutralize the volatile organic compounds that metal and plastic off-gas in the sun. Spraying at 5 a.m. and climbing at 5:30 means the stand still smells like industrial materials when the deer walk past at 6:15. Number 8. The MSG Umami application from the Japanese method video. 1 tablespoon of accent seasoning worked into the top inch of damp soil near a stump activates the T1R1 T1R3 protein receptor on the deer's tongue. The deer keep licking because their brain receives a protein-found signal that suppresses the satiety response. Cost is 5 cents per application. Best results in late fall and winter when browse protein drops below 7%. Number 9. Clear 1 shooting lane that points directly into the prevailing wind. On a south wind property, your south-facing lane should be your widest and cleanest, because deer approach from downwind, which means they walk into the wind toward your stand. They are using the wind to scent check the area ahead of them. Your widest lane should be aimed at the direction they are coming from, not the direction they are going. Number 10. Decalcium phosphate mineral sites. 2 pounds of decalcium phosphate from the feed store, roughly $1, mixed with 1 pound of livestock salt, about 12 cents, and a quarter cup of trace mineral mix, roughly 50 cents. Total cost $162 per site. Contains 22% calcium and 18% phosphorus, which are the 2 minerals that make up 57% of hardened antler as hydroxyapatite. This outperforms commercial mineral blocks that are 60 to 90% salt at $20 to $25 per bag. Same technique from the 10 brands investigation video. Quick pause here. Everything I just walked through, and 100 more tricks like it, is sitting inside the Buck Hunter's Bible, 2026 edition. 280 pages of the stuff that actually puts deer on the ground. And right now, if you grab it, I am throwing in the 30-day opening day roadmap completely free. That is a 60-page day-by-day preseason plan that walks you from the first scout to opening morning, so you start this season ahead of every other hunter in the woods. Link in the description, QR code on screen. This is the season you stop guessing. Number 11. Hinge cut 3 to 5 trees at chest height along the edge of a bedding area you want deer to use, roughly 4 feet off the ground, the height of a standard doorknob. The fallen canopy creates instant browse at deer height, and the horizontal cover makes the deer feel secure enough to bed within 50 yards. You are creating a bedroom next to your stand. Hinge cutting is legal on private land, but check with your landowner. Do not hinge cut near power lines, roads, or other hunters' stands. Number 12. Hunt the first cold front of October. The 48-hour window following the first overnight low below 40 degrees Fahrenheit in your area produces the first major shift in daylight deer movement according to data from QDMA, now the National Deer Alliance, that tracked GPS-collared bucks across 6 states. The cold triggers a feeding intensity increase that moves deer earlier in the evening and later in the morning. If you can only hunt 2 days in October, hunt the 2 days after the first cold front. Number 13. The mock scrape with an overhanging licking branch, which is a branch hanging roughly 4 to 5 feet above a cleared patch of ground where bucks reach up and rub their forehead and preorbital glands to leave scent. Use a wild grapevine if one is available near the site, because grapevine holds forehead gland secretions 3 times longer than oak or maple branches due to its rough, porous bark texture. Number 14. Trim your shooting lanes in March, not October. Early spring cuts heal by hunting season and do not leave fresh-cut wood scent that deer associate with human activity. I trimmed lanes 2 weeks before bow season my first year, and a mature doe locked up at 35 yards and stared at the fresh cuts for 90 seconds before blowing and leaving. She was not spooked by me. She was spooked by the evidence that a human had been there recently. Fresh cuts are a sign that reads danger in every font a deer can read. Number 15. Place your trail camera on the south side of the tree facing north. A camera facing south catches direct sunlight and produces washed-out daytime photos. A camera facing north gets consistent, even lighting all day because the sun is behind the camera. This alone fixed my daytime photo quality on every property I run cameras on, and it costs $0. Number 16. Add a 5-gallon bucket water source within 30 yards of your stand during dry periods. Sink it into the ground so the rim is flush with the soil surface. Fill it with water and add a handful of oak bark to the water. The tannins in the oak bark precipitate dissolved minerals that give stagnant water a metallic taste. The treated water tastes cleaner to the deer and becomes the preferred drinking spot in the immediate area, which pulls deer past stand on a daily schedule. Same principle from the Grandfather Secrets video. Number 17. Hang your stand at 22 to 25 feet instead of 15 to 18 feet. The extra height reduces the angle at which your scent cone hits the ground, which means your scent column passes over deer at ground level instead of hitting them at nose height. The trade-off is a steeper shot angle that reduces your vital zone window by roughly 20%, about the width of a softball instead of a football. Practice steep angle shots from a raised platform before the season. I shot over the back of a doe at 15 yards my second season from a 24-foot stand because I had never practiced the downward angle. That miss taught me more than any target session. I went home and built a practice platform at 22 feet in my backyard out of scrap lumber and shot 200 arrows from it before the next season. My wife asked me why I was building a treehouse at my age. I told her it was a training facility. She said it looks like a treehouse. She was right, but the arrows hit where I aimed that November, and that was worth looking foolish in the backyard. Look, I am going to be straight with you. Everything I am walking through in this video is just a small piece of what is inside the Buck Hunter's Bible, 2026 edition. 280 pages, 1 field-tested tricks. And right now, you also get the 30-day opening day roadmap free with it. A 60-page day-by-day plan that gets you ready before the season even starts. I do not know how long that bonus stays in the deal. But if you have been watching these videos and thinking this could be my season, that is the move. Link in the description below, QR code on screen. Make this the year. Number 18. Access your stand from a creek bed or drainage ditch whenever possible. Your scent does not stick to water the way it sticks to dry ground cover. A water entry route eliminates roughly 80% of the ground scent you would deposit on a dry trail. I switched to creek bed access on a property in SE, Wyoming with open sage and sparse timber, and my alert rate on camera dropped from roughly 1 in 3 sits to 1 in 9 sits. Same deer population, same stand, different entry route. The creek bed was 4 inches of water in October, barely ankle deep, and it ran within 40 yards of my stand before veering east toward the river bottom. I wore knee-high rubber boots and walked the creek for roughly 200 yards, about the length of 2 football fields, to reach my access point. The extra 10 minutes of walking in cold water was worth never being smelled on the ground approach again. Number 19. The Blackstrap Molasses Ignition Spray combined with borax. 2 tablespoons of blackstrap molasses added to the borax foliar spray. The molasses sugars coat the leaf surface and draw deer within 24 to 48 hours. The borax increases internal plant sugar over 10 to 14 days. Together, you get immediate attraction and sustained feeding preference from a single $1 application. Same technique from the borax weeds video. Number 20. Do not grunt call at a buck walking towards you. The grunt gives him a directional fix on your position. If he is already coming your way, the call can only redirect him or stop him. Let him walk. Call only at bucks walking away or walking on a path that will take them out of range. I grunted at a 140 class 10-point walking straight toward my stand at 50 yards, and he pinpointed the sound, looked directly at my tree, and turned 90 degrees. I still think about that buck. Number 21. Use a milkweed seed puff instead of commercial wind checkers. The seeds drift on thermals exactly the way your scent drifts, showing you the real-time path of your scent column. Commercial powder puffs fall faster because they are heavier than the volatile organic compounds in your scent. Milkweed is free silent and shows you what the deer's nose is actually reading. Number 22. Plant a 10 by 10 foot micro-food plot within bow range of your stand, roughly the size of a large bedroom, using a hand rake and a bag of winter wheat or crimson clover seed. The deer do not need 2 acres of soybeans, they need a snack bar. A small hidden food source in the timber creates a stopping point that a large field edge plot cannot because deer feel exposed in the open and secure in the timber. A land manager in central Georgia told me his best camera sites were never the field edges. They were the 10 by 10 clover patches he planted 30 yards inside the timber along travel hole corridors. The deer stopped to browse for 30 to 45 seconds, long enough for a shot. He killed 3 bucks in 3 seasons on microplots that a rider mower could cover in one pass. His largest food plot was smaller than most living rooms. But it was in exactly the right location, 30 yards inside the timber on a travel corridor between bedding and the main food source, and the deer used it daily because it offered food with security. No exposure, no open sky. Just clover surrounded by trees with one hunter 25 yards away, in an old lone wolf hang-on stand that had been there so long the bark had grown around the straps. Number 23. Put your tree stand on the downhill side of a ridge saddle, which is a low point between two higher ridges that deer use as a travel corridor because it requires the least energy to cross. Deer walking through the saddle from either direction are channeled through a narrow strip of terrain roughly 20 to 40 yards wide, about the distance across a tennis court. Your stand on the downhill side means the thermal current, which flows downhill in the evening as the air cools, carries your scent away from the saddle and down the slope behind you instead of into the travel corridor. Number 24. Brush in a ground blind, which means adding natural branches and vegetation to the exterior of the blind to break up its outline, at least 2 weeks before hunting it. Deer notice new objects in their environment and avoid them for 5 to 14 days until they accept them as part of the landscape. A blind placed the morning of the hunt looks like a black box that appeared overnight. A blind that has been sitting in the same spot for 2 weeks, with vegetation growing around the base, looks like a bush. A guy I trade camera data with in South TX brush country hunts exclusively from brushed-in ground blinds, and his average shot distance on mature bucks is 12 yards because the deer walk within arm's reach of a blind they have seen for a month and accept it as part of the landscape. Number 25. Hang two stands on the same tree, one at 18 feet for south winds and one at 22 feet for north winds, with the higher stand on the side where the thermal drops off the ridge. Switching between the two stands, based on wind direction, takes 30 seconds and eliminates the need for a second tree that requires a second entry route and a second set of scent deposits. Number 26. Stop hunting the same stand more than 2 consecutive sits. Every sit deposits scent on the entry trail, at the base of the tree and on the stand itself. By the 3rd consecutive sit, the accumulated scent load at that location is detectable by mature deer even if each individual sit was clean. Rotate between 3 to 4 stands and let each one rest for at least 5 days between hunts. A buddy who leases ground in Buffalo County told me his kill rate on mature bucks doubled the season he started rotating stands on a strict 2-sit maximum. Same property, same deer, same hunter, different rotation discipline. Number 27. And this is the one the retired wildlife biologist in Western NC described as the single most productive variable in 30 years of field observation. Hunt the last 45 minutes of daylight harder than you hunt any other time of day. His GPS collar data across 14 years of monitored bucks in the southern Appalachian hardwoods showed that 62% of mature buck daylight movement occurred in the final 45 minutes before dark. Not the first hour of morning, not midday, the last 45 minutes. The reason is thermal driven. As the air cools in the final hour of daylight, thermals shift from rising to falling. The scent conditions change, the wind patterns change. Deer that have been bedded all day waiting for conditions to shift feel the thermal change and move. Most hunters are packing up at 5:30 because they have been sitting since dawn and they are cold and bored and their phone died 2 hours ago. The biologist said the hunters who sit until last legal light, who gut it out for that final 45 minutes when every instinct says go home, are the ones who consistently encounter mature bucks. He said he could predict a client's success rate by asking one question: what time do you leave your stand? The ones who said dark were the ones who filled their tag. That is the list. 27 techniques that cost almost nothing and produce measurable camera-documented results when you run them together as a system instead of picking one or two and hoping for the best. The deer on your property are already there. The question is whether you are giving them a reason to be within 30 yards of your tree during the 45 minutes that matter most. Check your entry routes, spray the weeds, set the mineral, hang the second stand, and sit until dark. The buck that tags do not come to hunters who leave early. He comes to the gazai was still in the tree when everyone else was back at the truck.